Lately, I've been watching Van Neistat's channel, just in general, I should say. Van Neistat, of course, everybody knows Casey Neistat, right? For his vlog era. Maybe even before that. He was pretty popular in the early days of the internet, really. Not as many people necessarily know that he and his brother made an HBO series, even way before they were on YouTube necessarily. And I think even fewer people know that Van Neistat has his own channel where he does his own thing, which is much more focused on the kind of creation and crafting and handmade type of stuff, which was always an element of Casey's videos, but is like the staple of Van's videos overall. And he's just started releasing this new series on his channel it's literally called Long-Form. And it's all about his journey with AI. And in particular, the kind of like tagline for the series is that he wants to use AI to live more analog, which I always found kind of interesting. So I sent it to you. I don't know if you ended up getting a chance to look at much of it, but...
Yeah, I've never really seen his videos before. I've heard of him. I've seen him in Casey's videos when he talks about his origin stories, early days in New York, HBO series, whatnot. But yeah, it's like you take just a workshop, kind of like physical, creative concept of Casey Neistat and then isolate it into its own vlog all in itself. And then like a more nerdier version of Casey, right?
Yeah.
Like this guy doesn't like peg me as he's running marathons every week. I'm not judging his physicality. I'm just saying you can clearly tell this guy is obsessed with this craft in a very unique way. And maybe that like takes over his whole life. So that's what you get when you watch the Van Neistat vlogs. But most interesting thing to me is that he named the series Long-Form.
Yeah, tell me why.
Well, because why? Yeah. I want to know why he titled that way. Not that it's weird that he did it, but like why? There's a reason for him to do. I guess with anything, I highly doubt it was just like randomly thought of. Okay, he probably is making a statement about long form and what is truly long form in his eyes. Because like, here's a good example. Would you call podcasts long form content?
Absolutely.
Yes, on the technical side, but as a creator, is it really long form? To me, podcast is its own type of content. Yes, it's long form in its description of it, but it's not long from like the way Judy and I would understand it, right? Where they're like, you think through what you're going to be recording, or you at least record it, and then you produce it to a certain degree, and then you put it out as its own product. Versus podcast, it's so casual, it's so passive that, you know, we even talk about like sometimes you can record a podcast and not even look at it, just put it up because there's not as high of an expectation.
Yeah.
Different value proposition. Because what can you do with a podcast that you can almost do with no other type of video on YouTube?
Well, I think you're going to say clip it.
Not even that. It's even
Okay,
more
I'm not
simple.
sure. No.
Listen to it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
You don't have to watch the podcast.
That's a great point.
So when a creator says it's long form, you'll watch it. Now, we kind of take advantage of the fact that people listen to podcasts and longer videos. So when we do our new vlog format for the Vlog Academy, yeah, you're talking as if someone could just be listening in the background. But if you literally had no visual, does it become a podcast versus long form?
I don't know. I think it depends on what your argument is, but I see where you're going with this.
So I'm just curious why he named it long form
Yeah.
more than anything.
I mean, one of the things that you can think about is that, like, okay, the word long form was made in reaction to the introduction of short form, right? Because it didn't really exist before short form, right?
Just videos on YouTube.
Yeah. So it's like I'm uploading a video to YouTube, and original videos on YouTube could be like a minute long, 3 minutes long, maybe eventually like 10 minutes long or 15 minutes long.
But the threshold was that if it goes above 10, it's like, wow, that's a long video.
Yeah.
And if it goes into like 15, 20, that's a super long video. But it was all just videos in general.
In fact, like a lot of the conventional wisdom was like, you shouldn't be making videos. You definitely should be making videos that are 20 minutes long. You definitely shouldn't be making, you might not be wanting to make videos that are 15 minutes long or something like that. So you introduce short form, which is like at the beginning, well, you could go all the way back to Vine, 6 seconds or less, but it wasn't really called short form. That was just Vine, right?
Now let's just think about the opposite.
Okay.
if on TikTok you start a show called short form, would that be nearly as interesting?
Probably not.
Not even close.
Okay, but tell me why not even close?
Because, well, short form, it's like, this is where like short form content doesn't have the same impact of long form. So this is why I'm curious why he named it this way. It's almost like he's making a statement. Like, this ain't those short, chintzy videos that you could clip into a TikTok. Like, you got to watch it here on my channel on YouTube. This is long form. That's why, like, my perspective of it maybe even is different than you, because I'm like a thoroughbred creator. I've been doing this for 20 years, vlogging almost every single day of my life. So when I hear someone like a Van Neistat, who I know is like super passionate, obsessed, and he's
very
a craftsman,
thoughtful.
literally, say long form, I'm almost kind of celebrating. It's like, wow, like not everybody has the balls to do that, because some people, well, I think a lot of people might ask the question, but I would watch it because it's called long form, versus some people like, I'm not interested. Because what does it tell you? It doesn't tell you anything other than it's a longer video.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But creators look at it differently. But going back to your question, would a short form do well, and why wouldn't it do well? Well, I think it just, the limitation of what short form is. And the thing is this, when short form becomes long form, well, it's not short form anymore. Short form gets transformed when you start doing longer videos. Well, it's not short form at that point.
No.
That's the thing. If it's short, it doesn't have as much impact as if it's longer. Not just long, but longer. And that's just, there's like a ceiling for short form and what it can do.
One of the things that I think that I would think about is that Van, in terms of his period in which he came up through the internet, because remember, he was back doing HBO shows. Those are like 20, 30-minute episodes, right? So then he starts posting online, right? And when I look back, the original series, when I started watching him, he was calling it, I think, The Spirited Man or something like that. And it has this like very sort of specific thing. It was kind of like, I think he framed it as like a podcast technically, but it wasn't really a podcast. He was just using the podcast feature on YouTube. And he was sitting there and he would just write out a script, talk about something, have some visuals related to it, show you around his studio, and kind of relate it to something philosophically. Love his stuff, by the way. And then what was funny is that, and actually, if you look at his videos, a lot of them are like 5 minutes long, 6 minutes long, 9 minutes long, 9 minutes long, 20 minutes long, and then back to like 10 minutes, 8 minutes. That's like everything that he was posting 2 years ago. And so I think to your point that him titling it long form is kind of a statement, because this is the first time he's really done a specific series, to my understanding, around a specific topic as well. In fact, in the trailer that I sent you originally, he's like, it's going to be 20 episodes. It's going to be this. He's like literally think of it like a TV show.
Is it really a trailer? I thought that was just the intro of the vlog.
I sent you two different things.
Oh, yeah.
There was
I didn't watch the trailer.
There was like a 2-minute trailer, and then I had I actually, if you want to watch it, we'll link it in the description. There is a playlist that we've created of Van's long form series where you can watch through. It's great. It's like a lot of fun to watch and very much up my alley in terms of what he's doing. I don't know if Casey's still posting, because he was posting there for a minute and I feel like I haven't seen anything on my timeline lately. But yeah, anyway, it's been really interesting to see him do that, because we talk about show theory. He's, I think, making his show on YouTube. And one of the things that he's doing there strategically, and actually the reason I started watching long form and it caught my algorithm, was because he's clipping. And I don't think he's ever clipped. In fact, there's a video where he's like apologetically saying like, sorry guys, I'm going to be clipping this, because he's like maybe morally opposed to clipping for whatever reason, right? And so it was interesting that it worked for me. Like, I didn't even see the trailer. I saw this clip of something specific that he was talking about, which in this case was Apple, I think, because I'm an Apple nerd. And I was like, oh, cool. Van is making a long form series. I'm going to watch his show, of course. Like, I'm going to just watch it because he's covering this thing that I like. I love him. I would love to watch a 20-minute video that he's making. So now he's 3 episodes in, is one way to think about it. There's one other character here, though, actually, that I was kind of interested in talking about, which is Tom Sachs. Are you familiar with Tom Sachs?
No, let me look him up.
Neutrally, do you know Tom Sachs? TOMSACHS?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh, tell me about what you know about him.
Isn't it not their mentors, Casey and Van's mentor?
Yeah, so when they got their start, they were working for this guy, Tom Sachs. He's an artist. He's a sculptor. And if you look at his stuff, you can see all of the style of Casey's studio, of Van's studio. It's like 1-for-1 in terms of like it all comes from this guy, Tom Sachs.
Huh. I'm looking it up on Google right now. And yeah, you
his
can.
whole aesthetics kind of like that.
Oh, look, like Tom's studio looks like Casey's studio.
And so they basically took all of those ideas from him because they were working for him in his studio as basically his apprentice, right?
And they thought that was cool.
And they thought that was cool. And really interestingly, I think that now there's a third generation as well. There's this younger kid who I think worked for Van, who is now also adopting that style as well. And so they're all of this lineage now that come from, in my understanding, Tom Sachs, who I'm sure got his ideas from somewhere else as well, which I found kind of mind-blowing. I kind of knew about him back in the Casey days, but I never really looked into him. But he's been popping up in my TikTok timeline lately. I was like, oh yeah, this is that one guy who mentored Casey. And it turns out now Van and this other dude as well.
So why'd you bring him up?
The reason I bring him up is because when you go to his TikTok page, first of all, just fun to watch him and kind of fun to see how these things inspired Casey and Van, who are two of my favorite YouTubers ever, of course. His profile, in his bio, he just has one line in all caps that says, "The reward for good work is more work." And that's it. And I really like that sentiment. I think that that's something important for every creator to hear. And that's why I wanted to bring it up.
What does it mean?
Well, when I hear that, the reward for good work is more work, it's that, listen, first of all, the work never ends, right? If you want to, it's not like you're going to get to some point and then it's coasting for the rest of your life. It's like, you talked about this last week on the show. There are phases to these things. There are cycles to these things, right? And that, guess what? If you're doing well, that doesn't mean that somebody's going to take that same spirit and be able to execute it forever and ever. What it means is that if you're doing good work, I mean, the best thing you can hope for is that you can continue to do that good work because that has got you success.
Or someone wants to hire you to do more work or pay for your next work. And that's why that's like the ultimate, maybe like judgment.
Yeah.
Versus just like if someone tells you it's good. Like when they're like, I want you to do good for me now.
Exactly right. Shout out to Doc Rock in the chat. Good to see you back in here. Let's get to some follow-up really quick. We talked about YouTube's brand new show feature on the show over the last several weeks. In fact, we teased it way back when YouTube teased it, I think way at the end of last year. But it's officially released now. And one of the things that we talked about is that, number one, YouTube is now telling us how to create shows, kind of like Van's, and how they think about show packaging and the strategy around this show feature on YouTube. Just as a recap, it's a lot like Netflix, where you get a thumbnail for the show itself. You can click through, you can separate it out by seasons, you can separate it out by episode. It's kind of this feature that lets you basically create like a Netflix style packaging for a show, but on YouTube. And we got some really good feedback from the comments on this. And I want to bring up a regular listener of the show at Fix It On The Way, who says this: great breakdown of the show feature. It's definitely a step in the right creative direction for YouTube. But the question is, will it be effective? As it stands, the shows tab looks and operates the same as the playlist tab, which is confusing. A show will get lost in a sea of tabs and random videos. In theory, a show is special and deserves special attention. How will the algorithm handle shows when it's mixed in with the other tabs? Shorts, random long-form videos on one channel, etc. Right now, it seems like the best way to launch a show on YouTube is to do it the old-fashioned way. Niche down and start a separate channel. This would be the easiest thing for the audience, the algorithm, advertisers, and sponsors to understand. I want to hear your reaction to this because it's something that we have debated early on when we were talking about the original idea of show theory. When you talked about phase 3 as the show phase, what's your reaction to Fix It On The Way's comment here?
Yeah, this is a classic friction of the difference in perspective between the people who create the content and the platforms who host the content. You know, he just said what I think most creators at the end of the day would decide on. If I'm going to truly go all in on this show and give it the attention it deserves, might as well make it a whole different channel.
Yeah.
It's clean data. It's only going to be for this audience that wants it. And I mean, I feel like this is always the case. My audience that wants that will see it, or I can always share it with them. But the algorithm is that good. versus what is the platform trying to do? They're trying to get you to create a show on your pre-existing channel and say, hey, it's all good, business as usual, but you'll get more. What do you get more of? My last thoughts on this, set aside the comment from Fix It on the way, which, by the way, thank you for being a viewer and listener to this, is you should think about the show concept and the tools strictly for TV. Because, okay, he just said it. It looks just like a playlist, right? So if it looks like a playlist and acts like a playlist, well, it's just a playlist with maybe different back end kind of settings for what? For a television audience and for just TV in general. So what are they trying to create here right now? I think that people that are nerds like us would totally understand. They're trying to create a Netflix-like experience on TV.
Totally.
They're trying to be a streaming platform, not like a search engine on YouTube.com or online or the desktop or computer, even the phone. This is for TV. That's how I would look at it. When you upload it, it's just like any other video. So actually, I agree with you. It probably makes sense to have it on another channel unless that's all you're going to do.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the direction. It's worth it. Like I thought for my food channel, which I haven't been uploading, I thought about this a lot, not just because of the show feature. I was just like, what am I doing over there? Literally nothing, right, at the point. But if I was going to do it, this is like, I feel like a little bit of 2024.
Yeah,
in, right?
I understand.
I'm like, if I was going to do it, I should just go to phase 3. I should just commit to the show.
Very true.
And that is, whatever it is, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But logically, I feel like it'll do way better. It'll be easier for me to create. And in fact, the actual creative is easy because I don't have to reinvent the wheel. See, the thing about how I do the vlogging, it's just like always like an active thing that's ongoing. Like, what's the title? What's the thumbnail? What's all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Versus a show, just the idea itself is good, but like the packaging can kind of stay the same with a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I really believe in the TV era and they're putting out tools like this show function, and it looks just like a playlist on my desktop or my laptop, but it will look different on the TV, just go all in. I mean, like, this is maybe putting it out there a little bit. I'm just going to call it the Dad Shops at Costco show. It's working series title. Because this new function is just purely for the TV viewers. And again, the platform trying to be something that it's not right now. Even though you watch YouTube on the TV, do you still think of YouTube just like the way you would think of it on your desktop, laptop, or your phone?
To some extent. I guess I don't know exactly what you mean.
Like, there's really no difference.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning, like, you just have a different expectation, maybe different setting. But at the end of the day, you could probably watch Casey on the TV or on the laptop.
Yeah, that's very true.
You could probably watch our vlog on the TV or your phone, right? So why I bring this up is it's really up to you, the creator.
Yeah.
Where are you at in your journey right now? Like me right now, like I don't have time to do the whole volume thing, the daily thing, because I'm already kind of doing that on another channel. So I thought, if I was going to revisit my food vlog channel, why don't I just go all in on a show, take full advantage of that, and just let it be?
Yeah.
Just see what happens, And so that's kind of my thoughts. And, I love what he said, though. You should just start another channel. But who would tell you not to? YouTube. Yeah. They're like, you don't have to. But as creators, like, every time we do, it seems like it's better for us. Versus if I put it on my same channel, it seems like it hurts my channel.
Yeah. And actually, the reason I bring this up is multiple things. That, first of all, it's a great comment and a great point being made, is what you're saying, Benji. In this case, one of the things that this reminded me of is, like, back in that era, before we talked about this as show theory, before Kareem Rama of Subway Takes was saying, hey, you got to make a show, you've got to choose a format. When you were talking about the third phase, which is the show phase of vlogging or of any kind of YouTuber's life cycle, that show phase in particular, we were like, well, it was kind of a mistake of YouTube to call it a channel. They should have just called it a show. Instead of calling a profile a channel, you should have called it a show. And so back then, when there was none of these features, we were like, well, it was a mistake. But I think YouTube is kind of trying to rectify that to some degree by releasing this feature by saying like, well, listen, one channel might have multiple shows. In fact, your channel has multiple shows in a lot of ways. You have a live cooking show. You've got a Costco shopping vlog, right? And I mean, back in the day, you had a recipe show as well, right? So it could kind of fit if you did end up building that out that way, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely could be that. I'm not saying you can't do both things, right? Depending on what you choose to do. At the end of the day, it's like, why are you doing it and how well will it work? I actually do agree. The breakdown of the show feature is definitely a step in the right creative direction for YouTube. But the question is, will it be effective?
Yeah.
That actually is what piqued my interest when you're talking, because what I think about all the other features they've released over a decade now that now we don't even know about.
Yeah, they went into the dustbin.
I mean, like stories.
Oh, gosh.
They push stories on us, and we use the stories. And my partner manager told me, use stories. You should upload stories. To this day on my calendar, I should totally delete this. I still have a reminder, upload stories to YouTube, okay? Because I was told I should do it. And now it's not even a thing. So yes, I agree with you. Fix it on the way. Will it be effective? Will it be a waste of time? Well, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I mean, some real-time follow-up from the chat too, from Doc Rock actually, who agrees with you, right as you were saying it. He was messaging this in the chat, and he says no, because that is the thinking of it. That is thinking of it as computer users. You have to think about TV users, which was your point as well. Shows are working on a better experience for TV viewers. Also, most people misunderstand the algorithm. It's not pushing your content, but instead it's pulling it to them because they, are on a specific device or a specific time of day or a specific user, right? So as more people watch on TV, I think is what Doc is saying here, it's more likely that this feature will surface for them, which is also what you were saying, Benji. Fix it on the way. One thing I would say about this too is that there are subtleties here about the ways that it shows up. For example, a playlist can't have seasons, right? And some TV shows, you need seasons in order for it to make sense. Now, could you put it in a playlist? For sure. But how do most people navigate to their favorite episode of The Office? Well, they go to a specific season and they go to a specific episode. By the way, some people only like specific seasons of shows and they want to just watch specific seasons, right? Or another thing with shows is that sometimes specific seasons have specific themes, right? Or a specific set of characters, if you're thinking of like reality TV, for example, something like Survivor. And so the idea of seasons is actually a really nuanced piece of that gray area that actually I think this opens up as an option. Now, like Benji said, your question of will it be effective relies on how much YouTube will actually care about this feature, make it better, surface it in the algorithm, surface it on these platforms. But to both Doc's and Benji's points, I think this feature was built for the TV specifically. In fact, when they announced it, they showed the TV UI, not any other UI, right? And so you can imagine them going and saying like, oh, you're on the TV, so we're gonna have a whole bar here where it shows all the different shows that are available, and we're gonna put this show up every single time, especially if you're watching it, because we know that it's, as Benji says, guaranteed satisfaction.
Yeah, the biggest battle here that YouTube is going to have is the culture and behavior of creators.
Totally.
There's a little bit of risk in sticking to a show on YouTube, because part of the reason we do random things, it seems like we're doing random things, or like we're all over the place. We're just following the waves wherever they might go. Yeah. A best practice is when you have a hit, you should follow it up with another hit that's very related to it. So we come up with ideas sometimes on the fly. So even like, for example, Johnny Harris, we love talking about him, won an Emmy. You think of him maybe like above a creator because he's more like a producer. And it seems like he's doing a show. But even his shows are all over the place.
Yeah.
One day he's over in the Middle East. Another day he's talking about ice cream machines at McDonald's. Like, what are we even doing here? Okay. Why does that happen? Because the economics of it, it's all about how am I going to make money versus like a show on HBO or a show on even Prime. it gets bought by these platforms, right?
True. Yeah.
So they just have to create a great product.
That's true.
YouTube is not like that because the other side of this is the behavior of the
viewer.
viewers.
Yeah, exactly.
And would you agree or disagree that the viewer behavior on YouTube as a platform is a lot more random? It's a lot more like whatever I'm interested, I'm following that direction.
Yeah.
Versus like if I'm going to TV, like for me, I'm laying down and I might not watch 20 different series at a time. In fact, what do you think most people watch? What is the average amount of series on a streaming platform they normally watch at one time, like in a month?
1, maybe 2.
Okay, for you, like me, it's 1. Usually, how many are you watching at one time? How crazy is your life?
By the way, chat as well to let us know how many.
Doc.
Yeah, exactly.
How many series are you watching at one time?
Neutrally? We may have lost you.
We might have lost them. That's why we're on this.
No, my thing is mute.
Okay.
How many series am I watching?
Yeah, at one time with your lady, by yourself. What like are you juggling
Oof.
on
Right
average?
now? 3.
That's not that much.
Yeah, 1 to 3.
Okay, now we're gonna do another exercise here. I'm like looking forward. So like, look, Doc Rock said 2 to 3. Okay, I'm gonna ask you another question. Doc, get ready. Newsy, get ready. How many different videos, channel types, creators are you watching on YouTube in that same amount of time? So let's just say in a 2-week period, Austin.
Dozens and dozens.
Probably don't even
Minimum.
know. You
Yeah,
probably can't
lots.
even count. Like I can't count.
Yeah.
I definitely have like 4 to 5 that are my go-tos. But
Yeah.
beyond that, my gosh, the world's my oyster. That's how I feel. Like I do the refresh button. It's like, what is the algorithm going to give to me? So neutrally, how many for you?
Ooh, I can't count dozens.
Can't even count.
My attention.
Doc, how many on YouTube are you watching?
And
Okay.
you know what's crazy too? I mean, short form, the shorter the thing, even more. I mean, that could be dozens a day potentially.
This is what YouTube and the people pushing these show functions or show tools are not talking about, even if they know about it. They're just not thinking through all this. This is why this is a question a lot of creators can, a comment we can relate to. Will it be effective? See, for a creator like me, who we take pride in saying we're a YouTuber and YouTube's our home base, we obsess about the viewer.
Yeah.
We obsess about what are they doing? In this book, YouTube Secrets, there's literally a chapter where I say, guys, put yourself in the seat of a YouTube user. What are they typing on a keyboard? I think it's still in here somewhere, right? I know most people just use their thumbs, but what are they typing on the keyboard and what do they look at? That painting of that picture wasn't meant to be like, that's how everybody uses it, but think about how they use it, okay?
Yeah.
So if you think through that and you know how that works out, well, the whole idea of a show, I know this is going to be backwards from what I've been saying, doesn't make sense for most of YouTube. Where does it make sense for? On the TV, for someone that wants that type of content. See, what happened was collectively we didn't know we're kind of going in that direction. But it's almost always isolated to the television.
Yeah, that's true.
On your phone, on your laptops, your computers, it's still a little bit all over the place. That's why it is smart for them to make the user interface match Netflix, because if it kind of has that and whatever, and they're doing a great job, because remember, that wasn't what YouTube was for. So the fact that they even cracked into that space is amazing. But at the end of the day, it's so funny. Like if I think about watching YouTube on my TV, also all over the place.
Yeah.
And that partly is the creators who aren't creating shows. That's why, like, when I see these so-called experts now yelling, oh, you got to start a show, blah, blah, blah. But not even them are doing like a show the way, like, I think about Yellowstone. Kevin Costner, a team of producers, they're like, you know what? We're going to make a show about a cowboy in Montana. His family's owned the property since, they pioneered their way through all kinds of hell, and it's gonna be epic, and it's gonna be in this like small little town, beautiful, whatever, and we're gonna do 9 episodes. Okay, I'm just telling you, most creators don't think like that. The economics aren't there until they are there.
Exactly.
So whether this is a preemptive move to set it up to make it possible, or they're just hoping, and YouTube's legendary for this, that YouTubers just do all the work. See, if YouTube really wants to change this is why they don't do the thing that other people are doing that they should be doing. They should fund shows. They should be the economics so that the amazing creators, where are the creators going right now to create the most amazing shows and movies?
I mean, a lot of times the streamers.
Yeah, but I'm just saying obsession.
Oh, yeah, to Hollywood?
That's
Totally.
if YouTube
know what's
wants
funny?
to be this, why don't they take a note from these people and do that instead of them leaving the platform?
Well, they may have been scarred from the time that they tried to do it before, but I mean, things have changed.
Doesn't mean you can't try again. And
Yeah.
that's what's so interesting to me, because they spend so much money in all these other places. And I know they have this policy. They don't want to be like biased or pick and choose or whatever. By the way, Doc Rock says 20 to 30 on YouTube. Okay. Isn't that crazy that like one viewer who's in the chat who, you know, we don't necessarily hang out with a lot. I think we talk a lot because of the show and just like our relationship, literally is the exact same as the example I gave for everybody, and like 4 different people, 4 different types of lives, all the same thing. So all I'd say is this: will it be effective? We won't know until we use it. If I had to take a guess, I don't think it will until YouTube puts money behind it and makes it possible for people to really invest in a show to like make it happen. Backrooms is a good example of like the concept had to be affordable for it to be successful.
Totally.
It's like the show is shot in like 420p. And I don't know where he found this Backrooms area, but it's probably just some like, do you think it's a set? Or is it like just a empty office?
The YouTube videos or the
YouTube ones, the early ones.
The Backrooms, I think, was mostly Blender creation, like 3D modeling.
So it wasn't even real?
I don't think it was like even a real location.
Okay.
Maybe
like,
the original image was, but I think the actual like YouTube series was a creation of,
so would you call that affordable to produce?
well, yeah, definitely. It's a free software.
Okay, so I just proved my point.
Exactly.
That the things that are working. So in a way, YouTube's like the ultimate workshop, but it still relies on creators to like invest themselves, or kind of, what do you call it? Shoestring everything together.
Yeah, bootstrap.
Like, bootstrap together. Did I just make up a term?
Well, it's a shoestring budget as well as another way
There
to
you
think
go.
about it. Yeah.
Mixing. So, okay, I'm on this rant. All I say this. This is why I believe in the creators more than anything, because they always show up, they always deliver, and they do all the work that other people, including YouTube, hopes they can kind of help facilitate or push. But at the end of the day, they clock off at 5 p.m. and the creator is literally in the studio till midnight.
Yeah, and I think your point about creators not creating that content yet for the shows, for the TV, is the big thing that YouTube is trying to incentivize here. Because, I mean, if you listen to Neil Mohan, it's clear that the CEO cares a lot about this, right? Which is probably why this feature is being created in the first place. But what I really liked is what you were talking about when it came to what you talk about in YouTube Secrets, right? Remember YouTube's evolution. What made it so unique in the beginning is that you would go to a website and you would type something in, right? And you'd go through and you'd search for something and you'd try and get there. That's a lot of interaction. That's a lot of little button presses and inputs to get to the thing that you want. Now, was it convenient? Absolutely, right? But you were going in there and you're actually using it as a search engine. The equivalent on the phone, you might be hacking away with your thumbs, right? But more and more, it was actually swiping and scrolling and getting a recommendation by the algorithm. And so you click on it. What's the ultimate version of that after YouTube tried to kind of find its way onto the phone? TikTok. Short form, swipeable, vertical content that you literally are swiping. That's a lot of interaction, right? But let's go the opposite direction. When you're on the TV, what is the absolute worst experience of anything that you do on the TV?
Oh, remote runs out of batteries?
Remote runs out of batteries. remote is lost. Things like that. Everything has
I'd
to do
say
with
the
remote.
only thing, advertisers,
Advertisement
commercials?
is also terrible. But you know what my least favorite is? Typing. Typing sucks on the
right.
TV.
Totally. Yeah.
The Apple TV is just asinine. I don't know why they decided to put it all in one giant
And
line to have you swipe
the
back and
worst
forth.
too is when they have the microphone button, but that doesn't work.
Exactly.
Like, which microphone is it? Is it the one on the remote? Is it the one on the user interface? No, I get, yeah, for sure.
It's kind of a hack too, the microphone thing in the first place, right? Like,
So it
it's
has
like
to be very analog, left, right,
left,
up, down.
exactly. Little grid of some kind. So what would you rather do? Well, guess what? You'd rather show up, open up the platform, and have it show you the thing that you know you want to watch. What is that called? Guaranteed satisfaction.
Yeah.
And what do we always say about guaranteed satisfaction? That you need a show to create it. That's one of the reasons why you do a show, because it's so predictable that you're going to get some enjoyment out of it. And guess what? If you're only juggling 2 or 3 of those, well, what does Netflix do? They put a bar there that's called Watch Next, and they have you click on it, and you watch the next episode, and you're off to the races. There's no swiping left and right to get to the right letter 20 times to get to the right show. It's literally open Netflix, scroll down to watch next list or whatever it's called on Netflix, click the thing, and you're off to the races, right?
They give you different genres depending on what you're interested in. Not even a specific show, just like what vibe or feel you're going for. Are you trying to laugh? Are you trying to cry? Are you trying to like get action packed? Military kind of movie. It's all about like what section of the library am I going to go?
But put yourself into the shoes of the user, or the seat of the user, in this case, to your point, the viewer, I guess, when it comes to YouTube, right? If you're on short form platforms, it's lots of interaction. This is just me recapping. You're swiping, stopping. Swiping, swipe, stop, right? Then on let's just say the computer, for example, you're typing away, and you might scroll a little bit and click and watch for a long period of time. And there's not much interaction. And then you're done, and you might click a recommended video, or you might type another thing into the thing, and you swipe along, and you find the right video, and you click. So it's a little bit of interaction, but it's kind of in the middle. On the TV, it's very light touch. I don't want to be interacting with that remote with the dead batteries, or the I don't know, the keyboard on that long line on the Apple TV for whatever reason. I just want to open, click one button, watch, and not touch my remote for 30 minutes. Right? Or an hour or 2 hours sometimes if you're watching like a movie or something that's like a movie length, right? And so that level of interaction actually gets less and less and less, which explains one other thing that you brought up. It's evidenced by everything that we just said. How many shows are you watching at a given moment in time? 2 to 3 is what we decided?
Because how easy is it to find guaranteed satisfaction?
Because you've got 2 or 3, right? So you know you're going to get satisfaction out of those. By the way, if you had 20, what would you have to do again? You'd have to type and search. Right? You don't want more.
Because what do all platforms do? Your last watch is somewhere real close.
Exactly.
They know, they have the algorithm even knows, not just the people that build the sites or the user interface, but the algorithm knows you're more likely to watch this thing and watch it all the way through than to put all hypotheticals in there.
And that's because it's packaged as a show. It wouldn't work if they were all individual videos. You don't go to Netflix and click on an individual video, right? But let me go down the list and come back to that in a second. On the desktop computer, right? Well, it's much more likely that you want to be doing that touch. But like we said, there's like maybe 10 to 20 minutes between videos. So doesn't it make sense that if you're watching 2 to 3 of these, that because they're longer format, there's less interaction, you get the guaranteed satisfaction. Maybe you're binging in certain cases. Well, suddenly you have more creators that can be filling those slots in on the computer, because it's still low interaction compared to short form, which we'll talk about in a second, but it's more interaction than the super long form or the series or the shows that we're talking about on the TV. Well, now it'll go all the way down to short form. Well, think about all those swipes that I was saying. Every one of those is a creator. So it's like you're going from hundreds to tens to ones, right? If we're talking about like third grade math, right? The place value is really important here. And the reason you want to get all the way up to the ones is because that's where all the money is.
And that's why you have to obsess about guaranteed satisfaction.
Exactly.
Which this is why another fascinating thing is on YouTube, the creator stands at the center of attention, even if they're not like known by the audience. But on these movie and show platforms, the story stands at the center. Why? Because the stories usually are what's going to result in the type of satisfaction you want.
Exactly.
Not always the person. Like you can put like in any amount of actors or actresses in this role, and you could probably still get a certain amount of like satisfaction from it. Okay,
Exactly.
like I'd argue like the best shows like Breaking Bad, Yellowstone, like you need those core, characters. Kevin Costner for Yellowstone,
Sure.
Bryan Cranston for Breaking Bad, but most shows, they have like 5 different actors going for that one spot. But it's the show and the story and like the what you receive out of it that's really important. This is why people look at genres, right?
Yes.
That's what's interesting about genres when they break them down even more. When it goes from like action to military action, or like comedy action or whatever. What is the person actually doing? They're getting closer and closer to that guaranteed satisfaction of a certain type. Okay. Are you more likely to find new shows on in that kind of experience than you would on YouTube to obsess over? I think so.
Absolutely.
Because of that.
It's more niche.
Well, because the guaranteed satisfaction that you want, you're going to get out of it. Versus YouTube, it's like it follows your random thoughts. That's what it is. That actually goes back to, in my opinion, how it crawls your devices and your behavior on other websites. And then it's like, he's like really into interior decorating. I'm like acting like the YouTube algorithm. I saw that he was looking at like transformations of home decor on Instagram. Let me just throw something out for him. I don't know how real that is. You might be able to tell me. But then guess what? It's a whole nother thing. That doesn't happen on the other platforms.
Not
they
as
don't
much,
just,
no.
Not nearly as much unless you trigger it yourself.
Yeah.
You look for it and then you watch it. But again, what are they trying to do? This is why there's less opportunity on those platforms for a reason, because they have to deliver guaranteed satisfaction. You don't want to watch something, especially if they have to watch ads, and then at the end be like, I hate that.
Yeah.
But on YouTube, you're willing to take risks, and we watch all kinds of videos that are like, whatever, just move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that brings you kind of back to that idea of Van's show, right? Which is that I was watching these kind of like mid-form pieces of content between 5 and 10 minutes, right? And then suddenly he's like, I'm going to release 20-minute long episodes. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And guess what hooked me? One of the mid-form clips that he was posting as well. There's one last thing that I'll say to kind of wrap this up, which is that, have you heard of the idea of dead internet theory?
Oh, yeah, that there's stuff that's on the internet that no one looks at or sees.
There's that, and I don't know if that's necessarily part of what I was thinking of. The thing that I've heard about is that like the early days of the internet, people were creating stuff for each other. Are they creating for themselves or kind of creating for each other? And all these kind of communities formed in groups. And I think that there's sort of this nihilistic perspective, this pessimistic perspective that's like, well, the algorithms came and everybody's just optimizing and it's taking all the soul out of everything that we look at. And you've talked about this before. Like some creators feel like their soul is being sucked out of them by the algorithm because they're just creating for those views, right? In the first place. That's why it's dead internet theories, because their soul's being sucked out of it, right?
Oh yeah, you follow where things lead you, with the momentum, where the successes, rather than just like feeling alive doing the thing that you want to do.
Yeah, and so the opposite of that is the idea of a live internet theory, which is like people are like, oh well, but there are these corners of the internet still, because the internet's so big where these weird things that are that you love are happening. And I'm very much more on that side of the coin. But what these two opposing perspectives are talking about are these algorithms. And really the idea of dead internet theory is that creators are creating content for the algorithm and not for people, if that makes sense, right? And that's why it's dead, is because you're making it for the machine and not for the people out there that will be watching.
Well, the algorithm is the audience, so it's only part true.
Yeah, exactly. It's very tempting to kind of follow in these things and sort of Mr. Beastify your content in that way. Nothing wrong with what Mr. Beast does, but like, he's very driven by getting the views, right? I bring it up here because the idea of packaging, this is to your point, the algorithm and the audience are kind of one and the same, is what YouTube would tell us. Packaging your content for the audience or for the algorithm is what's so crucial here. And that's why I think that this feature is going to work, is because packaging it as a show, if the show is created well, creates guaranteed satisfaction, follows all the best practices of TV shows and other shows over the past century plus, right? Well, I think it's going to find success because it's going to find success on the TV. And the creators that are going to be able to find success that way are going to be the most successful overall because they'll be part of that 2 to 3 that people are watching, where people are super fans of, where they'll get the TV money, where they'll get all of that, rather than being a part of the people who are all fighting to be part of the hundreds that you're scrolling through on an average day on TikTok.
I have a hella random thought.
Yeah, go for it.
But it just proves this point. The quick version is this. Long form eventually becomes a show if it does really well, and it leads to guaranteed satisfaction. But it takes a lot of work and effort to do that, even if it's not like produce Hollywood level or status. Remember how I said a podcast is not long form, and a podcast is not even a show, in my opinion. Podcast. And the best example of this is Shane Gillis has a history podcast where not only initially, you're going to love this. Maybe we could pull it up, but it's a podcast about history from the perspective of a comedian that's obsessed with history. And he has random people on there, and their set is just like any random living room. And instead of using like nice mics like that, they use wired ones that they carry.
I love that. That's
so
cool.
They can plug it into like some kind of receiver and put it into a laptop and just boom. And you want to talk about no editing, just no editing. It's wildly successful. Now, like compared to Joe Rogan, maybe not, but still like for the amount of low production. Would that work on a TV?
What do you mean? Of course. Is it not working on the TV right now?
No, I'm saying like, would that work as well on the TV compared to other shows?
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, it's like a talk show, right?
How many podcasts you just sit and watch for like hours on a couch?
Counterpoint though. I think that because you're going the opposite direction. I mean, if you turn on CNN on an average day, how often is it just a bunch of people sitting around a table with those microphones talking to each other? I mean, that's like 90 cents of TV programming on an average day.
Oh my gosh, Nucci want to rip you a new one right now.
Hey, man.
Because he knows how much work goes into those news.
I totally agree.
They have visuals, they have B-roll, they cut to other reporters, they're on the ground. Like, it's not simply just CNN talking whatever, okay? The visual part is the element that like a podcast can. That's why a podcast is never a show.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because if you're looking to watch a podcast, yeah, some people do. Ultimately, you can listen to a podcast.
Sure.
So there's not as much of honey. Why am I even saying all this? Because when it's all said and done, it's all about guaranteed satisfaction. And the higher you get in terms of guaranteed satisfaction, the harder it is to deliver that. As much as I love YouTube, as much as I freaking love YouTube, is there any YouTube shows or channels that's nearly as successful as Breaking Bad?
No,
Not even close.
I can't.
I talked about Yellowstone. They went to like 6 seasons. Is there a show that's nearly as successful as that? It's funny because I would have used my wife as an example, but it was only a pound to pound like example, right? The amount of time, effort, resources to create this many views. Now, pound for pound, creators just win, okay? But when it's all said and done, when you sit down at the couch and you're going to watch something, this is going against a little bit of my theory of like people watching more on the TV, like YouTube content. When it's all said and done, though, what are the 2 or 3 things that we're binging on? The 2 or 3 things, neutrally. Those 2 or 3 things, are any of those a YouTube video series or YouTube or social media show?
No.
No. The 1 or 2 that you said, are they?
The Van Neistat one is one for me, actually.
You sit down and watch it?
Yeah, I sit down and watch it.
By the way, though, you're proving my point.
Yeah.
How much effort does it take for Van to create?
A ton for that.
A ton.
Yeah. He's a filmmaker for sure.
It's a legit show.
Yeah.
Only that kind of stuff will deliver the guaranteed satisfaction. I know this for a fact because I saw it. I was like, wow, this is like what Casey would do,
Very
right?
edited.
Obsessed, like 8-10 hours. The very
Plus.
beginning of the first episode, he's like complaining that I'm 2 hours into production and all I've done is imported the footage and got it laid out on the timeline.
Yeah.
That was it,
Yeah.
right? And then so for me, I don't even try to entertain these other ones unless it could get to that level. And there have been some stuff, but it was usually stuff that had a lot of production, took a lot of effort. Because what are we all trying to do? Get to guaranteed satisfaction. If it doesn't even make it, it's just we don't entertain it for that behavior, for those kind of viewing sessions. This is why, as much as like I love vlogging, there is a limitation for what vlogging can do. Vlogging is just it like gets you 90%. To go from 90 to 100%, and that's like legit binging a show.
Yeah.
On the couch like you would on any other show on HBO or Amazon Prime or Netflix, that effort is like serious. And that is money. That's resources. That's a team. Almost nobody by themselves is doing that except for live streamers.
Well, yeah.
And by the way, those live streamers are getting crazy views doing crazy stuff. Blowing up fireworks in the living room. You know, they're in Indonesia and they got like tens of thousands of people surrounding them. You don't know what the heck's going to happen. It's like kind of the suspense of what's going to happen. That's the element. But there's also a lot of risks that you take on with that stuff too.
Yeah, that is true. And just a bit of real-time follow-up. A counterpoint to the idea of shows on YouTube not having as much viewership as Breaking Bad, the average viewers and millions of viewers by the end of the series, which was when it was at its peak, was only like 6 million. And so to me, what?
Only 6 million?
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a bit.
Well, but I mean, think about, if you're asking me if there's other YouTubers out there, I mean, the average Mr. Beast video gets 6 million views or more.
It's funny. I'm not trying to advocate for these TV shows compared to creators. I'm 100% creator on their side, but 6 million of what? Like from one network? What about like from other platforms? From, you know, like.
Yeah, no, this was only live to your point.
Yeah, live. Yeah. Like the number of like, right. And then for YouTube, you have to count the evergreen views as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but you know,
and it'll never be a 1-to-1 comparison in that way. But my point is that like the numbers aren't enormously different from some of the views that YouTubers get. Like even like something like Subway Takes, right, which is a show on YouTube, it's getting, you know, potentially millions of views, right? And so to me, I'm kind of looking at that. I'm like, I don't know, it might be closer than you think. That's just my perspective. You brought up live streamers. It's a great opportunity to bring up our next item of follow-up, which is about iShowSpeed. Now, we have been obsessing with iShowSpeed lately because iShowSpeed is totally changing what's happening, not only for streamers more generally, but specifically on YouTube, because iShowSpeed is a YouTuber, is the way that I like to think about him. You know, Speed had the deal with Fox and FIFA and YouTube to do streams of the FIFA World Cup with an overlay of Fox's actual game footage and do a IRL stream in the stadiums or sometimes in his own studio and broadcast it to all of his viewers. And we talked about how massively successful he was, even potentially to the point about comparing ratings between a broadcast television and YouTube. In some ways that you count, bigger numbers on Speed's stream than the broadcast itself, which is just crazy to think about. And I think that is buttressed by this comment that we got on our podcast last week, which is by Abu Bakar 98173, who says, "Not gonna lie, I didn't watch a single World Cup game. I was just watching Speed's stream." Kind of matches what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, because I mean, that guy is so entertaining and interesting, exaggerated. So you could totally watch it. And it's funny, Speed still benefits from the actual game itself because he's reacting to it.
Totally.
Like it's hard to just replicate that reaction from nothing. So so that is interesting in itself. It's like almost like voyeurism in a way. Just like you're watching this guy live his life. It's like the ultimate vlog.
Yeah,
it's just like real-time vlogging. It's lifestyle, documentation at like the most purest level. So I mean, this is why I use a caveat that I think live streaming is the only thing that I think creators can create to do guaranteed satisfaction that doesn't take as much money, production resources as your traditional shows can become a show, you know? A good example of this, which I feel like is pretty low production compared to other shows, but people watch it. Anything sports related, but like sports commentary. Mm-hmm. The sets are pretty simple.
Yeah, well, mostly. Yeah.
It's like almost a glorified podcast, except they're using the visuals of the sports to commentate. I'm thinking about Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
That guy's show is crazy how successful he is.
Yeah.
And how I think he's the number one voice and personality for ESPN for sports commentating.
I could believe that, yeah.
And I think he originally comes from the creator world, the podcast world, even though he was also an athlete. But again, it relates to something that's similar to live streaming, which is just real life and it's unpredictable.
Yeah,
and the commentary on it, you know.
And actually,
so similar, to stream reacting to sports is commenting on sports.
Yeah, it's very similar, and it's just one is actually in a lot of ways more visual, one is more auditory. To your point about the difference between something visual and auditory, right? But actually, that brings us to another comment that we got on the same subject last week from Cheyenne Abasi 5416. I apologize, I probably butchered that. They say people don't really understand the influence of speed, especially in the football world. He is so big there, and yeah, they are trying to reach the younger audience through speed to secure the future of the sport, and the fact that he has a global audience so he can reach every part of the world through his channel. Speed is the GOAT and has crazy achievements in his streaming career, if you look at it being just 21. Which kind of is exactly what you're saying. And this person is saying that in particular, it was really smart to partner with him because he already had the pull in the football or soccer world, right? And so there's a natural alignment. It's not like it was shoehorned, which I think is part of what you're talking about as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like also that audience, they don't want to watch soccer or football. They just want to watch him, you know? That's like kind of a novelty in this thing. The way that creators want to be streamers, to me, it's kind of like the early days of people want to be YouTubers.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's this like cultural phenomenon, and that's why I'm following it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in a way, I guess I want to be a streamer to a certain degree, at least like be in that world, because I feel like that will dictate who the biggest influencers will be in the next decade versus who was the biggest influencers in the last decade. Yeah.
And one of the differences there is the way that people strategize around the videos that they're creating for streams, because a lot of it is different. Like one is production. That's something that you brought up. Another is titles. You brought up the idea of the last time when we showed this stream that got 15 million views, right? This was not even the final, but this stream got 15 million views. It was like IRL stream Argentina with a flag versus England with a flag, ! Semi-World Cup final, soccer ball, world emoji. And you're like, oh, that's interesting that he was using. You called out that title specifically when we first showed this, right? And actually, we got some interesting context from that same commenter who said that title is iconic to his IRL streams because that's how he used it in the first place when he started touring countries, quote, IRL stream in/at/of ... end quote, because it's simple and conveys the message for live viewers. And it's like his trademark, but his streams are edited out into shorter, crisp videos that are uploaded to his other channel that follows the rules of packaging and title, cover,
what was my comment about it? I was saying like it doesn't even follow best practices, right?
Exactly. And this is showing one of the ways that live streaming breaks those rules that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even more so though, best practices only become best practices because creators proved it works. Well, in this case, his title works because his audience knows this about him because he was already successful at having that great engagement.
Exactly.
So a majority of them, guess what they did? They saw the title. If we're just isolating their decision to watch or not to the title, and they go, "Ooh, it's like nostalgic for me. This is like what I know. Let's just see what it's all about." And then, does that become the best practice?
Well, at the very least, it becomes packaging for his show, which is IRL streaming, right? So because they know it and they see speed on it, they're like, "I'm gonna watch that because it's guaranteed satisfaction for me."
That's all that is.
That's all
that's all that is.
Exactly.
And he's just trying to take all the friction away. And because remember my thing was like, that that seems like such a simple title. That even is too descriptive.
Yeah.
And I would have maybe went a different strategy with it. I'm not saying I would have made a better decision. I'm just saying, like, if I'm putting on a stream like this, I would do something different. But he knows his audience. And rather than experimenting, because maybe he thought, oh, this other title could be better. Or maybe someone on his team or even Fox are like, can we do something like kind of crazy? I know like you've done like wild titles. He was like, you know what? This is what they want. And that instinct, that is so invaluable to deliver on guaranteed satisfaction, and what packaging would lead them to believe they're going to be satisfied. Yeah, it's just the creators is where it's all at. That's why, like, when I work with brands, especially on behalf of other creators, I'm like, just trust them.
Yeah.
They already know. Even creators were like, hey, do you think you could tell the brand this? You think they'll like trust? It's like, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Because right when they start dictating how their content should be, putting words into your mouth, or basically turning you into a commercial, they've lost. You lost. The audience loses, and then nobody wins.
I agree 100%. And just to summarize, the thing that's happening with Speed is that Speed is trailblazing here in a way that's creating those new best practices, because like Benji says, the best practices only are the best practices because creators are executing and it's working, right? So these are some of the things. Now, we're not saying go and title your streams this way, but guess what? If you have a show that's a live show that people know what to expect out of you, and you have that recognition, you're growing that core audience, well, you're going to have that success, like that original comment that we read that says, I didn't even watch the World Cup games. I watched Speed, right? Because I cared about Speed and not necessarily the World Cup games. And if it wasn't clear at this point, Benji is a true believer in live streaming, which is why he started live streaming at the end of last year. And it's also why we're sponsored this week by Ecamm, your Max Creative Studio. Now, tell us about the early days of you experimenting with live in this go-around, because you've been doing live for a long time, but you also stopped for a while, and you've come back, I think, because of Ecamm.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's two parts of it. Number one, I was starting to do vlogging, and naturally, I realized the television was a big part of why longer vlogs were working, because people were throwing up these vlogs in the absence of more produced shows, longer, YouTube videos, and the vlogs are doing really well. So I thought, well, I've always known that vlogging is attractive to viewers because it's relatable, it's realistic. Well, the next step up is live streaming it. No editing, it's just raw, it's real, and it's you unpolished, which in a way that's that part of the novelty of a lot of vlogs. Not all vlogs. Some vlogs, like the production is a thing. There was like this weird era where people were making cinematic vlogs.
Yeah, like Casey, for example.
Yeah, but even higher than that, like with crazy cameras and
color grading.
It looks like a movie or whatever. So I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking like the stuff my wife and I do, very lifestyle like. And so that was part of it. The second part was the IRL crowd. Mm-hmm. There's these crowd doing crazy vlog or live streams, 6, 8, 10 hours, 3 days straight. And it was becoming its own thing that lived out literally outside of YouTube for a while, like on Twitch. I thought, those people might be different than the other people watching vlogs that would watch a live stream of mine. But I believe both roads will lead to the same place where there won't be any kind of distinction. There's just going to be this world of live. Now, there's other elements to it along the way. AI was creating AI slop, more competition. Short form creators, just so many more on here. It's like your brain kind of like gets turned into mush. Sometimes we just go back down to the most simplest thing. I was like, simplest thing, and to kind of know what's going to work, it's like a volume playing. So I was like, you know what? Let me just go live. And so that's why I started going live. Why did I start using Ecamm? We had already been using it.
Yeah.
It was easy enough for us to put on a live stream, but also utilize some of the pro functions they've got. And I just liked the fact that they were starting to do things that no other live streaming, platform was doing, like multi stream, right? Different platforms, like different formats that came a little bit later, but they're very innovative, and it was still easy for me to use or my team to produce a live stream for myself on my laptop.
Yeah, and I think one of the amazing things is that marriage between the vlog in your world, because you were literally vlogging the new way, right, with your DJI Osmo at that point, and your live stream setup, because of Ecamm, could be married into one thing. You used one laptop, right? You used 2 DJI Osmos, you used your DJI mic, and so the gear was the same gear that you already had, same gear you're already used to, the same gear that your audience was used to seeing. And so that innovative spirit that Ecamm really does carry very well also meshed quite well with your existing tool set. And it was something that allowed us to create these professional level looking like live streams with super minimal setup overall. And so if you want to check out how it works, we actually have a video about it. You can look at that on our channel, and we have a whole playlist it's called the simplest live streaming setup that I've ever used. You can also go to ecamm.com/Benji. Or if you want to see how Ecamm itself works, you can go to the free trial at the link in the show notes and use code BenjiTV15 for 15% off your first bill. Thank you so much to Ecamm for creating such an incredible tool and for sponsoring our show. Speaking of DJI, we kind of been off the DJI beat for a minute here, but did you know that just about a week ago that the 4P came out?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, officially the Osmo Pocket 4P is out in the world, and
not here.
People are using it, and as you can guess, not available in the US once again. Yeah, it's still banned in the US along with all the other DJI products. And when I looked at the price, it looked like it was kind of retailing around the $700 range. So definitely more expensive than the others, which makes sense. And let me give you a couple of quick hits about it. I watched a video from Think Media, actually. They had a really good video comparing the 4 to the 4P. And some of the hit features are all the things that we've already talked about on the show that were rumored and also announced by DJI. So they have the regular 1x kind of wide angle lens, right? They have, in addition to it, a 3x zoom telephoto lens. The wide angle gets D-Log 2, which is an ability to shoot in that kind of like almost raw or color gradable format, but it's only on the wide. The 3X does not have D-Log 2, it just has D-Log. It gets a remote screen that lets you detach it and kind of like control it from afar. And that's pretty much the extent of what it is. It's basically the same thing as the 4, but with a little bit more zoom reach and maybe a little bit more dynamic range as well. In terms of the features, how does that sound to you? I think in the past you've kind of been like,
That's exactly how I feel right now about it. Even listening to you is going in one ear, out the other ear. I mean, I'm listening, but I mean, I have so much I want to say about the Pocket 4P or just the Pocket 4, but generally speaking, nothing gets me excited about it.
Yeah, and actually, to your point in previous episodes, you talked about some things that you were concerned about, and those are also confirmed, I guess, by a lot of the reviews that have come out in the last week. One of which, again, from Think Media, is that it's heavier. So if you're carrying this thing around and you're a vlogger, you're using it every day, well, guess what? More weight means more bulk, means more obstacles, and more obstacles means less filming most of the time, right? On top of that, you got 2 lenses, which means double the glass, double the sensors, double the plastic, etc., which means that the thing is top heavy. And I think that Think Media talked about that, but I know for sure Tech Radar talked about it. In their cons, they literally said top heavy design, and it compromises its ergonomics. It gets worse though. This is the biggest offense of all in my mind. It, as compared to the Pocket 4, has worse battery. So if you're a vlogger and you want to use this thing all day long, I know they have a really simple like battery switching system, but why would you choose the thing with half an hour less battery? It's 2 hours, 42 minutes of battery versus 3 hours and 17 minutes of battery in the Think Media battery test. And I'm like, come on, like that seems like a huge failure. And the amazing thing to me is that everybody who's out there doing these reviews that I've seen so far, for the most part, has said, this is the best vlogging camera that there is. And listen, I'm not a vlogger, not in the same way that Benji is for sure, but everything that you've told me about what you value in a camera, this thing does not really have. And so that is really concerning to me overall. There's one last thing that I'll say. There's a really good video by Film Alliance who reviews the 4P versus the Pocket 3, which I thought was an interesting comparison because the 3 is still somewhat available in the US, but the 4P isn't. And he's like, is it worth it to go? And he's like, the image quality is pretty much the same. I mean, you do get the zoom, you get a little bit more color grading ability and things like that, but overall, it's pretty much the same. And so, I mean, Benji, I don't know if I can make you feel any more about the thing, but does that make you feel any more
Yeah, I mean, like because I'm a vlogger, I'm really careful to adopt new equipment because part of vlogging is you do it a lot and you do it around your lifestyle. Now, there's some vloggers, and I teach this in the new vlogging method. You can just vlog for different niches, different passions, different hobbies or whatever. But for the most part, that style of vlogging I do is like you get up and you go. You can't really think about it. You can't mess around with what's happening. And even the DJI Osmo Pocket 1 and 2 just never quite hit, right? Because it wasn't the perfect camera. Pocket 3 was literally a perfect vlogging camera, in my opinion. Like you can see by how many times I've uploaded. What else would you have to do to perfection? In fact, it's kind of like sometimes you try to change things to make it new and you ruin the perfect aspect of it.
Yeah.
It happens a lot in business and products. And that's why Coca-Cola really doesn't ever have to change their logo. It's literally just perfect. Okay.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, like the only time they had to fix like the bottle was because it wouldn't fit, right? Like in the machines or something like that.
Yeah.
But back to the original point of the Pocket 3. Well, even the Pocket 4, and I've been using it. And guess what? Every single day I use it, I miss my Pocket 3.
Really?
We still use the Pocket 3. And when I pick that up and use it, love it. I love the thing. There's just something different about it for me. I can't even explain it. So the Pocket 4P, the Pro, even more so takes away from the perfection and is forcing the lens, which guess what? Makes it heavier. Now because it's a beefier machine doing beefier things, pulls way more battery.
Yeah.
Well, for lifestyle vloggers, you need that thing to last you all day and can't, right? You can't be like trying to recharge all the day. Now there is a little battery in the handle that's great, but that probably would get drained quicker too because of it.
It will be.
So the fact that you have to make accommodations to get those better functions, that is getting away from the fact that it's perfect because you don't have to think about it. It's easy to use and it's reliable. And the durability versus now is not as much those aspects of which make it a great vlogging camera. So that's why I zone out everything people are saying. I mean, this is not just me either. I had a event at my house, a cookout, okay? But a lot of creators came. And what did they all say about cameras? These are people that buy expensive cameras, review expensive cameras. They're techies. They're like camera junkies. And they're just saying well, what's the point of buying cameras anymore? The phone is so good. The camera is really for a niche customer. So now you're just trying to cater to that person. Of course, they want the crazier lens. They want the extra functions. They probably don't care that the battery gets drained, even though they probably do care. But guess what? They'll buy that extra battery pack. They'll charge it up. For the average creator, this is why even DJI, they did themselves a disservice. They created such a perfect product that if your 3 is still working, there's no need to buy anything else. Because guess what? I believe is going to happen. More and more people are going to just use their phone.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And so I feel like we're just getting to the end of another era for cameras, where now it's just for those people that can afford it. And the super obsessed nerds when it comes to camera, advancement. And then literally just the people that want to just produce the highest quality video. And that's what's interesting. They're trying to make the Osmo Pocket 3 that when they don't need to.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of what happened to point and shoot cameras during kind of the, I guess you would say the 2010s mostly, when the iPhone was blowing up. It was point and shoot cameras tried to kind of become professional cameras in a lot of ways. And it was really kind of well, what are you doing here? Who is this really for, right? And to the point where the point and shoot cameras were being used, actually funny enough, by creators mostly during that period, I think, right? Because it was kind of getting that quality, but also it was the right form factor and the right size, right? But it was the same kind of story where they would change things for the sake of changing things, and a lot of times would mess things up. I know you've told me stories about this a lot, but I remember during that period, Casey Neistat, to go back to the Neistats again, bringing this up, that I think it was like a Canon camera, or maybe it was, I don't remember which one it was. I think it was like a Canon camera. And he was like, they moved the microphone from here to here,
God, the worst.
and it totally ruined it because now my finger covers it every single time that I record myself. And it's like those little changes are the things that maybe somebody who's not using their cameras
every day,
multiple times a day, in an extreme way, like a vlogger would ever even think about, for an example. So I think that brings us to the end of the show here. We're going to do some Ask CSP. I'm going to start today by showing you a quick clip of Adam Masseri. Here's Adam right now.
Why might two identical reels get vastly different amounts of reach? Now, there are a number of reasons this might happen. There's some degree of chance or randomness in the system. We don't like that. We're trying to reduce that, but that is a thing that sometimes happens. Two, the amount of competition might be different. So if you're posting on Mother's Day and tons of people are posting really heartwarming tributes to their moms, that's a lot of content that you might be competing with, whereas you might have a lot less content to compete with. You're just posting on a random Tuesday that is a quiet news cycle. For that post might be different. So if you're jumping in on a trend, it might do better. Generally speaking, how interesting something is and how much people interact with it not only depends on what is said, but the broader context in which it is said. It can become more or less relevant and then get engaged with more or less, which will then affect its reach significantly. I know it feels a bit random, but honestly, that is a byproduct of how people interact with content. There are some moments when content is going to be interacted with more, and some moments where that same content might be interacted with less, and therefore it's going to get much different amounts of reach. Hopefully this helps.
I think it's really interesting that Adam is doing this, is like kind of becoming like a creator himself to some degree. Like a lot of creators watch his stuff, right? And actually like learn from him.
He's like a celebrity in the creator world.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense. It's kind of like he's the voice of the platform, of Instagram, of the algorithm in some ways here, right? But I'm curious about what your reaction is to him talking about that, because the question is, why do identical videos get different reach?
Well, everything he said was great except one. He said, oh, sometimes it's just by chance and we're trying to fix it. You can't fix chance.
Yeah.
It's chance for a reason.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I know that he's saying, oh, we're trying to make it so it's like fail safe or whatever. All the other things he said afterwards is what makes it by chance.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
So I thought it was a great explanation. Because I wonder too. I see people sometimes posting up the exact same video, and sometimes it'll do even better than 3 weeks ago when they posted it. It's like a thing with short form creators.
Totally.
Repost. Even the platforms are saying you can repost your stuff, and not just like twice, sometimes 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And sometimes it can go even more viral, or sometimes it just falls flat on its face. It is kind of interesting to me. It's kind of a huge hack for short form creators.
Yeah.
To just put it out there again, because on that day, the chances might be on your side.
That's very true. And actually, I'm curious, do you think, you talk about short form creators here, what do you think about long form creators? Like, would
re-uploading?
Yeah, would it work?
Oh my gosh, that would be heaven for us, because we have 5,000 videos. I wish I could just re-upload.
Why can't you though? That's what I'm interested in.
Maybe I will, but technically you're not supposed to upload the same video twice.
I didn't know that.
This is where this gets really distinct to YouTube. Video ID, right?
Yeah, content ID?
Content ID. That's like IP for that video itself. So if you put out another one, like I think it changes that. And it's against the rules that upload the exact same video.
I had no idea.
More than once. Supposedly, we can double check this, but the easy fix is you just adjust it. You just
like change like one frame.
Yeah, just one thing. So totally could do it. And I know for a fact, kids content, they do this, but not in the way that we think. They're not just re-uploading. What they'll do, they'll mash up 2 or 3 together and then upload that. And then they'll take those 2 or 3 that are mashed up together, jumble it, and then put that out as another. Oh yeah, wow. All the time. Hella smart. And so, yeah, I think about doing it with our old vlogs sometimes.
Yeah.
Because how many people, and this is where we got to be careful, because Judy and I don't want it to seem like we're using and abusing our life, this precious thing that we're just sharing, not willy-nilly. Like, we know that it's it's like special to just like refabricate the experience that you only got if you watched us 12 years ago.
Yeah.
But then I think how many people might enjoy that era that probably never would find it because the algorithm's not even suggesting it anymore, that we could re-upload again.
I mean, shows do reruns for a reason. There's some nostalgia there too.
I know. So it's an interesting thing to me. I think the reason we don't, though, ultimately, Judy's a purist.
Okay, concept. What if you did a 24-hour live where you would sequence random
Mutually?
It's Judy's life?
Let's do it.
That would be pretty cool. It's like the It's Judy's life channel.
And what's crazy is we could fill up the 24 hours with just like 1 year
literally
of content.
That would be so cool. Or greatest hits, or like, I don't know, you could do anything there. Just a thought. Just a thought.
I think we should do it.
I think we should do it.
We should try it out and like use Ecamm.
Speaking of Ecamm, Doc Rock asked earlier in the show for our final Ask CSP. Benji, Travis, and Austin, how often do you quote unquote blind box watch? That is, pick a random video and just kind of roulette for new stuff on YouTube.
Very rarely.
Why is that?
Personally, because I'm always interested in something, and that's how I use YouTube, like a tool. And if I'm not doing those things, I'm going to support the creators that I care about, that I love watching their content. I'd rather give them the views versus just like this term blind boxing. Nothing wrong with it, but like I said, almost never do I just randomly just watch something that I have no context to, you know? And you could say, in a way, I am already kind of doing that based off the algorithm, but the algorithm's feeding me what it thinks I want, which it's usually so good, it is something I want to watch.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. The algorithm is so good for me that YouTube's almost always hitting on something. So it's almost too attractive to go to the thing that, by the way, guaranteed satisfaction is also at the algorithm level. Like if you trust YouTube's algorithm, you're more likely to choose one of its suggestions, even if it seems a little bit off the wall and maybe seems a little bit random. Let's close out the show officially with our tradition, which is to read from the Steve Jobs Archives letter to a young creator. Today, we're going to read from Hans Ulrich Obrist, who says, advice to a young creator, a list in progress. 1, do it. The work can start anywhere. My first exhibition took place in my kitchen. Don't wait for permission to do something. 2, be curious and learn constantly. The root of the word curare in Latin is not just taking care, but also being curious. The motor, the engine is curiosity. 3, to build long-term relationships with artists. To develop lasting, evolving dialogues with artists, one of the curator's roles is to listen to artists, to follow their ideas, and support their visions. 4, a protest against forgetting. To record conversations and to preserve traces of the work of others, the archive as dynamic memory. The future can be invented with fragments of the past. 5, to embrace collaboration. To facilitate and foster new alliances between disciplines, to go beyond fear of pooling knowledge. 6, to be global and local, both and instead of either or, instead of nor. Building upon the work of my late friend Edouard Glissant, whom I read every day, we must resist the homogenization of globalization and invest in a worldview that he called mondialite or globality. I can't even pronounce that word. A global dialogue that, as opposed to globalization, is the creative, relational side of the world where culture thrives through interaction, not erasure or assimilation. It encourages vibrant exchange that preserves diversity and enables cultural transformation. 7, to think about time, not just space. An exhibition is not only spatial, it unfolds in time. My exhibition, Do It, which came into being in 1993, was the result of a simple question. What form can an instruction for an artwork take? The outcome has now taken on a life of its own and involves many people reacting to both the question, what constitutes artwork, what changes can someone make to another's idea, and the instructions it has produced. Different versions of the exhibition have unfolded over time and have been shown all over the world since 1993, with more than 400 artists participating, and Do It has never stopped since. 8, follow what excites you and meet it with enthusiasm. 9, generosity is at the core of everything. Generosity as a medium. If there was ever a time that the world needed artists, it is now. We need their radical ideas, visions, and perspectives in society. This belief in artists underpins each of the points above, which form part of an ever-evolving list, one that is to be continued. Hans Ulrich Obrist. Benji, final thoughts.
Do you agree that you can be generous even if you don't have the intention of being generous, but you can never be generous if you're completely selfish?
100%.
And when I think about what creators are, especially in the beginning and the most powerful now, are the ones that are intentionally or unintentionally generous because they're doing more than what they're paid to do. And in a lot of cases at the beginning, not paid at all, but you do it anyways, which leads to the point he made before that. Do what excites you with a lot of passion.
Yes.
Just those two that should lead the way for you, because it almost results in, as long as you're improving and getting better as a creator, to you succeeding as a creator. And that I sometimes forget about that first era of YouTube in 2008, when literally everybody who was on it was basically doing it for free.
Yeah.
And everyone else just judged you like you were wasting your time, which in a way you could have looked at it in isolation as that. But does anybody that's still here from that first year of 2008 ever feel that way? No way. And yeah, being generous and following what excites you, it's a great, easy way to ask yourself, like, am I doing the right thing today? Because if you do those two things creatively, it's like, it's the right path.
There's this great famous letter, actually, that Steve Jobs wrote to himself near his dying days. Actually, he wrote this email. It's funny. It's like it has the sent from my iPad thing at the bottom because, of course, he loved his own products, right? But this is September 2nd, 2010. He says, "I grow little of the food I eat, and the little that I do grow, I did not breed or perfect the seeds. I do not make any of my own clothing. I speak a language I did not invent or refine. I did not discover the mathematics I use. I am protected by freedoms and laws I did not conceive or legislate, and do not enforce or adjudicate. I am moved by music I did not create myself. When I needed medical attention, I was helpless to help myself survive. I did not invent the transistor, the microprocessor, object-oriented programming, or most of the technology I work with. I love and admire my species, living and dead, and I'm totally dependent on them for my life and well-being." The other thing that he often said was that we're constantly taking, and that's exactly what he's describing there. We're constantly taking. And he continues to say, the ability to put something back into that pool of human existence is extremely neat. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Putting something back. Thanks to our sponsor, Ecamm, your Max Creative Studio. You can learn more about Ecamm at the link in the show notes, and you get 15% off and support the show with our code BenjiTV15. If you want to put something back, that's a great place to start. As always, thanks to the students of Vlogging Academy. You can learn more about the new vlogging method at vloggingacademy.com. And thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.